Pause that for just a second.
Today after night.
Recording. Good morning, everybody. Happy Tuesday. Oh my gosh, I cannot believe it's the middle of September. I'm Melissa Schwartz, the managing broker of the Realty One Group office here in Paradise Valley. And today is a listing paperwork slam. I am not doing a listing presentation. So if you thought you were coming to the listing presentation, no, we do that as a rev up. But this is talking about getting all your paperwork together if you are working on creating a package to take a listing. Okay, so just want to make sure of that. Now there's two things here. I usually do an hour and I need to stick to that because I've got a really packed schedule today. So I want to make sure you guys know we're going to go through the forms themselves. And then when we get the time at the end, I will start showing you how to go through and set up a template, but I probably will not make it all the way through that. So bear with me, but I want to show you what is required. And the good news is we are recording this. You will be able to look at this later. So don't feel like you have to write everything down and track all of this because there's a lot of paperwork. So let's get started. Whoops, I guess I have to click on the screen here. Okay, so setting up a new listing. Okay, so setting up a new listing, where do you go to gather forms and information? Folks online, if you want to participate verbally and answer my questions, you can unmute yourself. Just make sure if you've got dogs in the background that you are probably staying muted. But if you can unmute and answer and then mute again, that would be great. One of the things that I think is the most challenging, and I do have people in here, so I'm going to go back and forth from the people here to the people on the screen, but I think the most challenging part of the listing paperwork is that it is not in one location. So can some of you online or in person tell me, where do you think some of the places are that you go to get the paperwork to prepare for a listing? Transaction desk, Sky Slope,
Our working docs.
our working docs. So let's see. Oh, wait, what did I just start with? Oh, what is that?
Armless.
No, Armless.
Armless.
Yeah.
Why would you start at Armless? What information is going to be on Armless? The property information. So what do you need before you ever get to start a file? And we have title people sitting here. No, who the plant. Why? Well, even more than that, what is the first thing that goes on to your listing documentation? I'm hearing agency, property address. Yes, property address. What is the next thing that goes on there?
Parcel.
Legal.
The legal description?
Yes.
Who is your client?
Seller.
The seller. So who is the seller? Do you know? Because boy,
Right.
title,
That's
how many times? Here, I've got Roberta here. How many times do people get told, oh, it's just John Smith is the only one on the property? Yeah, all the time. How many times do we have, I don't know, maybe married couples or
have a deceased parent and they say, oh yeah, I'm their son, I got the right to do it. And hey, you go to probate? Oh, I don't have to, I got a will. The will doesn't work. Oh, I got a power of attorney. Power of attorney don't work after they're deceased. Yeah, It
Yeah.
becomes a big to do if you don't look it up first and see. And I would
And it might not
recommend.
even be right,
It might even-
looking at
You're
it.
right.
Yeah.
Right.
So you can always call title on that one. That's right. So you've got our folks here at Rock Title that will be happy to answer that question. But seriously, how many times it's crazy. We had an agent come in here the other day. This was literally about 2 months ago. Oh yeah, I've got a new listing. It's in a trust. And I said, okay, that's great. And I said, what's the address? And I pulled it up. Wasn't in a trust. And she said, I know it's in a trust. I have the trust. I've seen the trust. And I'm like, well, just because you have the papers of the trust doesn't mean that that's where it's currently recorded. Because, okay, Art's going to tell us what happens.
I had a client from 2 years ago that had a transaction here. She put her property in the trust and she says, well, I need you to do deed. She goes, what's in the trust? So I went on Maricopa. So I would say Maricopa County Assessor's Office, go to that link, save that link. You can do it by parcel number, by address, by people's name. It gives you the tax ID, it gives you the last recorded deed, it gives you parcel maps, it gives you everything on that one site that you can link to.
And way
And
more
we-
accurate
So-
than Munson.
Well, but
So
you
going
can
back-
get- you can get there from Monsoon, folks.
Okay,
You can get
So-
there out of your Monsoon thing. You just click on the property parcel number and it will take you directly over.
so going back to Bridget, the lady says it's in the trust. Well, what she was confusing is that she did a trust, she put the property inside the trust, but she never put
Title.
trust in title to the property. So she was confusing the property being in trust because it was placed inside the trust, but the trust was never recorded as the owner of the property. So she was confusing that the property was in trust.
And if the party has ever refinanced.
That's the
lender
big
makes
one.
them take it out of the trust.
That's the big one,
If they don't
folks.
put it back into it, they think
So,
it's there.
Or if they have to do some type of quitclaim deed, just ran into one where somebody took it out of the trust to quitclaim it to their daughter,
Straw party.
thinking that their daughter could then sell it and they didn't have to participate if needed. And in fact, what they've done now is it's not in a trust. So if the mother passes away, then they have to go through probate because it's no longer in the trust. Now the daughter is an owner, doesn't get tax benefits of inheriting it. They are gonna get taxed at the original purchase price. There's no up base. So again, lots and lots of other issues around this, but please start with ARMLS. I'll show you that later. And when we get there, please somebody remind me to show you how to get to the Maricopa site. We already had this before, SkySlope Forms Transaction Desk. How many of you here in the room use SkySlope Forms? How many of you use Transaction Desk? Okay, so we've got a split room, which is what I thought might occur. Okay. How many of you have used Breeze? This app is there. Can anybody tell me what Breeze is for? I'm going to show you a little later, but does anybody know what Breeze is for? Pretty quiet here. I don't know online. So we'll wait and we'll talk about that on the next screen. So, and then the other place is ROG, our working docs, right? Because if you are using Transaction Desk, they do not auto-populate into SkySlope Forms like they do under SkySlope Forms, right? So they transition over there, that's fine. But I still think you may need to get a few of them out of the working doc folder. So those are the 4 places to go get forms. That's a lot to remember. It's not a one-stop shop. And you often have to go back and forth between the different ones. When you're in SkySlope Forms and Transaction Desk, I always suggest you print out the Monsoon tax information. And if you have double screens, have it sitting there so you can copy and paste. So it's a little easier, but that's the basic idea. So let's talk about ARMLS. Okay, and again, I'm going to give you the focus of where we're going. Then we're going to walk through this depending on how much time we have later. Monsoon is the tax information. Yes, CurveView is there. I understand that. CurveView is probably a little better for CMA, but the tax information is really the main thing right there, because you need the owner information. We need to know, is there a trust? Is it in the trust? Is it not in the trust? Is it an LLC? Is there a beneficiary deed? Is there a personal representative? Who is responsible for this party? And by the way, don't trust what the seller says to you. You have to go look that up. Because again, this woman was absolutely certain, this agent, I have the trust. I know it's in a trust. So we talked again 5.5 months later after it had gone through probate. So, you know, there you go. It's, you know, you can say all you want, but you can't sell the property if they do not have the right to sell it yet, right? If it's a personal representative and they have gotten that personal representative information, I don't know, signed off on 90, 120 days ago, they better go back and get their PR signed again because it only lasts 60 days. So, you know, again, look at that information, make sure that that person actually has the right to sell the property. Oftentimes, you know, when we're dealing with deceased situations, it can be very emotional. We've had several that have been because children have passed away and parents are having to sell the property. And again, they think, well, no, everything's taken care of. I'm the PR, blah, blah, blah. It's like, well, make sure that that's truly what where it's supposed to be. Okay. Also in Armless, one of the things I highly recommend is get the input form from ARMLS. Does everybody know what I'm talking about? How does the file get put into ARMLS? Does anybody know?
Just did it. I'm trying to remember.
So you go in and you actually create a new file, right? And the way you do that is you either start from a blank file, and that would be, gosh, if it's a brand new home that's never been sold on the MLS, great. But most of the homes we sell have been around a few years. So you don't have to reinvent the wheel. Now, so what you can do is you can go in and you can copy an old listing. Now, I do recommend you go through and look through some of that information, depending on how long it's been since it's been in the MLS. We have a lot of new fields, but at least it gives you a starting place to talk to the seller to say, okay, I need you to review this data. How many bedrooms? Are there 2 sinks? Do you have, is it a level interior? There's no steps, right? All those odd things that get in there, and the HOA information, delete all of that. Make sure they're giving you brand new HOA information on that input form. Copy, no photos, folks. Even if it's a Realty One, don't use those old photos because they're old, right? You want something current. Make sure you're getting professional photos done, unless it's a rental property, or I guess if it's, a property that's really just being sold to investors. Otherwise, remember, you are going to be visible with what you put out there with those photos. That has your name on it. So you got to be careful with that. Comps. That's the other thing we use ARMLS for, right? We got to pull comps. So you can, of course, use the the curb view. And I don't think I have it under here. Let's see. Oh, I guess copy no photo. I forgot to change that. I was supposed to say curb view. So instead of Monsoon, they do have the curb view. You can go in there. It has a nice little program to look at comps. Always remember, you need to go look house by house, photo by photo, if you're doing comps. All right. SkySlope Forms and Transaction Desk. While I understand a lot of you newer agents are being trained on SkySlope Forms, please know there is an alternative there. Transaction Desk is through the Arizona Association of Realtors. It is a free program, and it works very well. The only reason I bring this up is over the last several years, both of these systems have inadvertently gone down for the day. So please know if that happens, you have an alternate system and you can use it. Both systems have signing programs. SkySlope Forms uses DigiSign. Transaction Desk used AuthentiSign. Both of them are available to you. So again, if you're struggling, somehow the system isn't working, just know you have an option. Both of them are free to you. So let's talk about what documents you need to actually set up a listing. Obviously, I've started with the ER, the right to sell, or the EA, exclusive agency. If you are new to real estate, please make sure you are using the ER, because you probably do not understand what the EA means. We do have groups in our office that do use the EA, most notably Russell Shaw. That is his company's just kind of design and how they do their listings, which is great. But they absolutely know what they're doing on those. I do not recommend somebody use that without understanding. Somebody tell me another document you need filled out. Another listing
ABA.
document, huh?
Oh, the listing document. Well, you need ABA.
The ABA? Well, yes, but that's not on SkySlope. It's not on Transaction Desk. What else on Transaction Desk would you pull out?
Let's see.
Agency.
Agency. The ready form, right? The real estate agency and disclosure. Okay. What else?
Wire fraud, marketing, or wire fraud.
Just wire fraud. Those are the ones on there. All right. So let's talk about Breeze. So nobody here at this table knew what Breeze is. Does anybody online know what Breeze is? They have absolutely blank stares here. I'm not gonna open up my screen, but if anybody knows what Breeze is, just open your mic. All right, nobody knows what Breeze is. Okay, so Breeze is a new app. Just like when you go up at the corner with those little 9 boxes to get to SkySlope Forms, right? There's another pull down there. You guys have DigiSign. I do not, so that's kind of a different story. But you then have the Breeze, which is another app. The Breeze allows your seller to fill out the seller property disclosure online. The best part of it, they can't skip any lines. So it protects you because they actually answer all the questions. Because I don't know how many listing agents don't bother to read when their sellers actually send them the spuds and they don't actually read it to see just how many lines have been left blank. And they wonder, they're kind of incensed when the buyer's agent calls back and says, could you tell me what the answer to number 9, 14, 16, 17, 20, 22, 24, 26. And by the way, if you're a buyer's agent, you should be talking to your buyer to make sure that they got all the questions answered. Yes, ma'am.
Can we use Breeze just for that purpose, to send them that?
Yep.
Spuds?
Yep.
Okay.
Breeze does not allow the signatures to be taken at that time. It's simply for the data to be put in. I recommend on your listing appointment that you take a printed version of the seller property disclosure statements, hand it to them, suggest they read through it and gather some of the dates and warranty information. In fact, I've been telling people to put a little folder on their desktop and move all their little warranty stuff about the property onto that, because as they get ready to do the spuds, they need to go pull all that information. Because if you check the box, yes, there's a warranty, it says upload, please. Oh, I don't know where that is. Oh, yeah, there you go. So tell them to prepare before they go in and start to fill out that form. Because then you get the seller property disclosure and it's the entire packet with everything in there all ready for the buyer. And it automatically adds the pages in the back that everybody has to sign off that they got them. Oh, isn't that nice? It's all beautiful for you. It's all there.
And it's a breeze.
It's a breeze. There you go. Now, there are more forms on there. That was good. I don't know how many people actually use these other forms. This one does make sense because, again, guess who's not supposed to fill out the HOA form? Us. We're not supposed to touch that form. How many of you are guilty of calling the HOA to get that information because the seller is not making that phone call? And do not answer that question, please. I don't want to know. So
Take the fill.
take the 5th. Okay, so if you send the HOA to them this way, guess who has to fill it out? Oh, they do.
That's on Breeze too.
That's on Breeze too.
That would cut the same way they have to fill every box, right?
Yep, or you,
Oh.
well, you have to skip them. If you don't have a master, you're able to skip over those. But the spuds you cannot, because in reality on the seller property disclosure statement, how many people know what the question is that's asked over and over? Does anybody know what the first 3 or 4 words are?
Best of your knowledge.
Are you aware?
Yes, yeah.
Are you aware? So I always find it fascinating when sellers come to me and say, I don't have it. I don't know about this. I'm like, well, then you answered the question. Well, no, I don't know what I'm supposed to put. I'm like, yeah, you just answered the question. Are you aware? Well, no, I'm not. Well, there you go. The answer's no. If you don't know, the answer's no. It's very simple. And I would bet you 90% of the seller property disclosure starts with, are you aware? If yes, then this. So yeah, there you go. So HOA and spuds would probably be the 2 that I would use. The other way to do the HOA is, again, at the listing appointment, give them the copy of it. Circle the front page or highlight the sections on there that they absolutely need to ask. The biggest problem with the HOA is they call the title company, not the title company, they call the HOA management company, and the management company says, yes, our transaction and disclosure fee is blank.
Mhm.
What's wrong with what I just said? Does anybody know?
Fine.
Title's answering for me. The answer is combined. On the HOA, it's not combined. There are two different things. And why are they two different things, Roberta? Can you tell us?
I can, Melissa, because the resale disclosure fee must be paid by the seller.
Oh
That's
my
not
gosh.
Optional, and the transfer fee is either or both.
That is correct. And Roberta's having fun laughing at that because I remember calling her once on a transaction where I represented the seller and the buyer's agent emphatically told me that they were going to use their title company because it didn't matter that all of this was going to be put under the disclosure fee for the seller to pay. And I'm like, no, that doesn't work that way. There's a legal obligation for the seller to pay the disclosure fee, not the transfer fee. Just, oh yeah, my title takes care of that for me. I'm like, do you really, you're like saying that the cop is gonna cheat there? That doesn't quite make sense. And she totally did not understand what she was saying. So I was like, oh yeah, we're not using your title company. But you do need to watch that, I guess, for people to actually do their jobs right. But it is a split fee. And often they will call and the HOA will just say, here, this is one fee. So make sure you highlight both of those and say, these are two different fees. Please make sure to get the split on that, okay? Because they like to ignore, actually, I think they were doing it the other way. They like to ignore paying the disclosure fee. I think she represented the seller. She was saying that the buyer would cover all those fees. Like, no, it doesn't work that way. Seller has to pay one. The other one's negotiable, right? And please, on page 3, do not let them fill out page 3. They don't get to fill out page 3. That's for the buyer to fill out. I always love it when I get one that they've already X'd the boxes and said the buyer's paying all these fees. No, they don't get to choose that. Okay, the other one, which
What was the second fee, the disclosure fee? And the third?
transfer.
Okay.
Transfer and disclosure fee. So I think this is kind of funny. I get the reason they've done this is because they don't want realtors checking boxes for their clients. However, in 27 years, I have had exactly one transaction where the seller had a packet of lead-based paint information. In all the transactions I've had, I've literally had one. So the likelihood that the answer is that they do not have any information is pretty solid, but of course you do need to ask your client, do you have any of this information? And then you can check the boxes. They've put it through here so that your client has to check the boxes, right? Breeze is set up. You check either one or two, with all the things that they're answering on the lead-based paint. Again, in Breeze, they do not sign anything. They're just providing the data and answering the questions. The document comes back to you, and then you then can put it into AuthentiSign, DigiSign, DocuSign, whatever e-sign program you're using to have your client sign those documents. But guess who didn't touch that data? You didn't. And that's the important part of this. Yep.
HOA, there's a page 3 with the buyer about, so the seller doesn't get page 3?
Yes, the seller does get page 3 after they get the offer. This is as we're preparing the documents for the listing. When you're preparing the offer for the buyer, you take the 3-page HOA addendum and you have the buyer fill out page 3. And the seller gets that with the offer, and then they can respond either accepting or countering those terms on page 3. Some sellers like to fill out that information in advance and tell the buyer what they want them to do. Like, no, that's not
They're agreeing to that.
what they're agreeing to in advance.
I'm
which-
making an offer to you. now.
Yeah, that's right. I'm telling you, this is what I'm gonna take. It's like, yeah, well, you have the right to counter that, but the buyer has the right to ask for first. So, okay. So, whoops, I don't know why that did that. I put the wrong tag on there. So, Realty One Group working docs, the first thing I would get is our listing checklist, because that would have taken you through all of these documents and told you what you need on a traditional listing to prepare your listing documentation. So sadly, that's there. I was going to ask what that actually stood for, but the ABA stands for the Affiliated Business Arrangement. There you go. Look, it's like rock. What does ROC stand for, right? Okay. Oh, look, it's gonna go away. Sorry, I did it the wrong direction, folks. Okay. Owner agent addendum. How many people knew that we have an owner agent addendum? Right? Does anybody understand what that means? That means if you are selling your property, you are the owner and agent of the property you are selling, you must prepare the owner agent addendum. Now, it doesn't actually go into your listing documents initially, but I would recommend that you already have it pulled out and you've already filled out your part of it in order to send it with your counter offer or send it as an addendum saying, look, I need this signed. It is an awareness thing. People are confused. Some people think that it mandates that you buy a home warranty for the client. It isn't. But it mandates that you tell a buyer they have options out there by getting a home warranty. They can buy it. They can ask you for it. That's fine. But you can say, no, I'm not going to pay for that for you. But that it exists. Okay. That they should get a home inspection, right? All those things are there. Why do you think we have this addendum?
CYA.
Yes, what else?
Disclosure.
What else doesn't cover you if you do not have this addendum?
You know?
E&O insurance, yay! If you are selling a property and you have not put the owner agent addendum and not gotten the buyer to sign it, your E&O coverage does not cover you.
Okay, so let me ask you a question.
Yep.
So in escrow, we normally see the contract, and we always see this on page 8, conditional terms and condition. Seller is also a licensed real estate agent in Arizona.
Mhm.
Does that cover that? Or
No.
do we still need that form?
No, this is a separate addendum that has disclosures specific that our E&O coverage mandates are provided to the buyer if you are the seller of that property. Owner agent of that property.
Different ways are there that if you're related to the buyer?
I see that too.
Buyer or seller? Oh,
To the seller.
if you're related to the seller, usually the way that works is if it's an immediate relationship. So parents, children, siblings. Parent, children, siblings. Yeah. Now, obviously, I've had people that are boyfriend, girlfriend. They are cousins, they're aunts, uncles. You can absolutely disclose that. But what is required is that immediate. Parents, siblings, children.
Other terms and conditions.
Yeah, it's just written in other terms and conditions, yeah. And yes, you do need to disclose that. But this has to do with E&O coverage. This is a really important document. Also in our working documents is the one exclusive or coming soon. Does anybody know what those documents are?
Well, I know, coming soon.
So coming soon, if you are putting it in coming soon, we have an addendum for that. That the reason we have that addendum is because if someone makes an offer while you're in the coming soon status, the seller has to acknowledge before you put it in as coming soon, that before it hits the full market, they may not be getting the best offer or terms and conditions that they might get with a broader pool seeing that listing. So we have a disclosure on there that the seller acknowledges that, you know, if you get an offer, because sometimes they get so excited, I got an offer, right? Well, great. It didn't even hit the market, right? And it's like, then you're trying to explain it to them. No, when you take that listing and they say, hey, I want to be coming soon for 3 or 4 days, or you suggest that, that addendum needs to be in there. Now, we also have the one exclusive, which is, we're not putting it on the MLS. We are going to hold it as an exclusive listing with Realty One Group with you as the agent, right? You're not putting a sign out. You're not doing any public advertising because per clear cooperation, you need to have to be in the MLS, either coming soon or on the market active within what time period of advertising? If you put a sign out there, what's the time period?
24 hours.
Really? 72 hours, 24 hours? Anybody else have a guess?
Not right away.
Right away? No, nope. It's a very interesting term.
As soon as
It's
possible.
very interesting
No.
term, But verbiage, the amount of time frame.
Nope. It's one business
Oh.
day.
Okay.
So if you put a sign up on Friday, when do you actually have to be in the MLS? Monday. Yeah, that's why I said it's very interesting timing.
Mm.
So that's the clear cooperation rule, unless of course that goes away later this year. We have no idea. We'll see what happens with that one. That is in some litigation fights, but at this point, if you are not putting it on the market yet, but you are talking to your own sphere, you are doing things in a private group. If you have a private marketing group that you are working only, that they contact you, that you've been communicating with, you can let them know you have a listing. You just cannot post that anywhere on an outward facing Facebook group or something like that. Because then you have to be either coming soon or active within that one business day. We have the One Exclusives Facebook group for Realty One Group. You can post something in there. Hey, this is off the market. Just wanted you to know. You don't have to say it's going on the market here, there, or otherwise, because it is within Realty One Group and you are allowed to do that. It's private. It is.
As long as your clients-
Yes, indeed, sir. So your client has to be willing to sell using a limited representation to another Realty One Group agent. That is correct. So these are the main documents. I have one more, post-possession. Why do I not have pre-possession on here? Because it's a listing contract. No, we do not like we don't like either of them. But this post-possession is if you know that they're going to be doing post-possession, let them see what that document looks like, because oftentimes they're like, oh, well, wait a minute, maybe I don't want to do this, right? So talk to them about it before you list. Okay, so what do we have next? ER. So we did have some new language that we gave you an option for additional terms and conditions. This is the new ER, right? Pursuant to lines 50 and 51 of this listing contract, seller, and please don't try to write all this down. Seller understands that in the likely event a request for buyer broker compensation is made, it shall be made by the buyer via the seller compensation addendum, and seller authorizes listing broker to communicate this preferred method to prospective buyer brokers. Seller reserves the right to accept, reject, or counter such requests during offer negotiations. Now, I said you didn't need to write that down. Why did I say that? Do you have access to this each and every week? Do you have access to this? You absolutely do, because every Sunday I'm sending this to you. And if you look on the far right-hand side down on the bottom, it says useful clauses. That clause is in a Word document, not a PDF, so you can actually copy and paste it. Although I do need to change the I in the listing is a capital I and it's a little I. So I changed it on this, but not there. So whoops. Okay. Just real quickly, if you are doing the listings, you do need to talk to your sellers. Do they want you to use the compensation agreement between buyer brokers or not? This is a part of your listing conversation. Why do I have this on here saying prior to or with the offer? Now you're the listing agent, so you need to know why that's there. Nobody's commenting. Okay. So, if you're the listing agent and you get a call, hey, Melissa, is the seller providing buyer broker compensation? And the answer is yes. In fact, we are. Now, either on lines 50 and 51, I have a number or they're blank. Now, if I have a 0 in there, what do I have to say? If there is a 0 on lines 50 or 51, then I have to say the seller is not paying buyer broker compensation. Right. So if you have a number there and the seller has instructed you then to tell the buyer, yes, I am paying 2 bananas. Oh, I forgot my bananas. I have a banana in there. I was going to throw it at people. 2 bananas, right? I'm paying 2 bananas or 20 bananas, whatever it is. No, I'm not throwing that banana. That's ew, that would splat. So no, I have a really cushy, soft one that's not real. Okay. So 2 bananas, right? So they have to say, they want you to say that. Then the agent says, are you using the CAB form? Are you using the CAB form or are you not using the CAB form? It's up to you. If you want to use the CAB form, the seller's given you a specific dollar amount, great. You can fill that out, say, sure, Joe, let me send this over to you. Oh, look, just emailed it over to you. Awesome. Joe got that cab form, has 2 on there, he signs it, and what does he do? He puts it in his stack of papers. And then he goes and prepares the offer. Guess what's not in the offer? Oh, that cab form is that piece of paper sitting over there that is not in with everything else, because who signs the cab form? Buyer, broker, and listing broker, broker to broker, right?
Right.
Right? So it's not in the signature packet because it's not going to the buyer to sign. They don't sign it. But guess what? This has to go back over to the seller as an executed document that the buyer has agreed and the seller or buyer broker has agreed and the listing broker has agreed. And actually the words that read in there, the prior to or with quote, is actually from the document itself. It says a condition of that actual form, it's literally contingent on that it is delivered prior to or with the offer. Last time I checked, contingency, number 1 contingency isn't met, then it doesn't work. Yes.
I saw an email this weekend from, NAR. And it's a consumer guide, offers and compensation. And one of the questions it has, it says, how will a buyer's agent know if there is an offer of compensation? From what I've been hearing, like, it's not allowed to be posted anywhere.
That is not true. It is not allowed to be posted in the MLS.
Oh, okay, because it says there's many ways to advertise.
That's right. You can advertise
Like on
a
flyers,
gazillion
signs.
places,
Just
Yep.
MLS.
just not in the MLS.
Doesn't make
They
any
also
sense.
come, you probably
Okay.
see them,
What is it?
those I think it's property.com or something like that.
Oh, homes.com,
Oh,
I think.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
you can advertise your listing and what compensation you're offering. If it's your listing. Okay, Realty One Group is not advertising what all of our agents are doing as a whole. We do not have a website. We're not going to have a website that does that.
So a flyer for a home, you can have it on the flyer.
You can have it on a flyer. Where else can you have it?
On your website.
On your website,
Right.
on a sign writer out front. We're offering buyer broker compensation. You absolutely can have it out there. Now, I don't know how many buyer brokers are driving around, but if they're showing the home, then they see when they walk in, look, it's their
Let's go look
paying.
at this one.
That's right. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
So yeah, let's go look at this one.
No, I'm gonna put that one across the street. Good, listen.
All right.
That wouldn't happen.
So I have about 20 minutes. I'm going to escape from this. Let's see if I can go to, what do I have? SkySlope. Oh, guys, I am so sorry. This is why I didn't want to use SkySlope. So my SkySlope does not look like yours.
Oh, yeah.
I wish it's not fun. Okay. So apps. Here's your forms, offers, Breeze. Again, I don't have DigiSign. Don't get into that. I don't. Here, let me actually go to Breeze.
Oh, you can access Breeze right there.
Yeah, that's where the app is.
Okay.
So, what I want to do is see, the problem is I get all of yours. I'm so blessed. This takes forever because everybody's Breeze in the office pops into my Breeze. I don't know how to get out of that. So, but you can start, it may not let me do this because it just takes forever. Unfortunately, I didn't realize this until one day I came in here, I'd done something, it wasn't doing anything. I walked away and came back and my whole thing was full of like 75 properties. Yeah, see, yeah, it keeps, okay. So don't look at mine. Mine has nothing to do with yours. You guys will be fine on that. All right, I'm gonna go back into SkySlope. Whoops. Let's go back into SkySlope. All right, I'm gonna show you this really quickly. 2 forms. How many of you on forms have set up a template? Okay. If you have never done a listing agreement and never set up a template, you should start in the templates. If you will notice, look, I have a listing package with our fun friends at Rock Title. So apparently I have a couple of these. So I have one that has nothing in there, and then I have one that has 8 forms in there. So let's start with this one. And let's figure out what we want to add. So what you do here is, if you've never done this, you can start with the exclusive right, and you want to go all the way down to exclusive authorization. Where's exclusive right? That's not right. There it is. Residential listing contract. Oops, I did that wrong. Okay. We want to add that. Okay, then just, you're basically going to go up here and all those documents I told you about. So agency, and you want to make sure that you are picking up the disclosure for the seller or landlord, and you want to add that. And then we're going to do the wire fraud, seller's wire fraud, right? Now in forms, we are also able to do the affiliated, see, it says ROG corporate affiliated business disclosure statement. We can get the, I don't know, let's just do ROG and let's see what it says. What the other documents, so the AZ coming soon, 1 exclusives, we can add that. So this does not have the time, the listing checklist, but that gave us, so that gave us most of these. Now, again, I would honestly put in here the seller property disclosure. Whoops. Why do we not have this? Make sure your libraries are correct. Don't ask me why Louisiana is in there. I don't need Louisiana. You do need ARMLS, as well as AAR and our Realty One Group forms. So property. Residential seller property disclosure statement. It doesn't, I don't know why it didn't go in there before. Let's see, what else did I have? Oh, let's say you do a lot with home, HOAs, home. No. That's weird. That's not right. Community. That is right?
Yeah.
Why is it called condominium? Should not be condominium. That's funny. Okay. And let's see, lead-based paint. There are both rentals and sales, so make sure you're getting the sales. Okay. So we are now going to go clear this out. I'm not. There's something I'm missing here. Oh, so now I can continue at the bottom there. I have 8 forms like I did on my template that I already had in place. What you do now on, I'm still in the, should still be in the template. And so what you do here is you're going to fill out the information that you already know. So oftentimes you'll see Realty One Group 08. I'm just going to tap that to put in the rest of my information. Not sure why this pops in over there. You can put it over here. But you need to go in and fill in your information here. So that you can have all this information here. You're going to want to pull, this is the brokerage license number. Mine automatically fills in REOG 08. You can fill in the phone number here is, whoops. If you have a fax, we don't have a broker's fax number. So you can save that information. You can't put your owner or seller. We're doing this as a generic. You can't even put assessor number. You could probably put Maricopa, but I think it won't allow me to continue if I try to hit save here because it wants the rest of the information. So you can't even fill that in. You can't do legal description. What you can do is if this is your template, usually for sales, you can go in and click these little boxes, right? You can't put prices or terms, timing, and you're not going to fill in most of this. Now, retainer, if you are going to have a standard of care that every time you do a listing, let's say over $1 million, that you're going to have, say, a $1,500 retainer fee for your marketing. Trust me, if you're doing over $1 million, it tends to add up very quickly. You could put that in there. That's fine. What I don't want to see you guys put here is what are you getting as a constant here? Because this is supposed to be negotiable. Now, in your listing presentation, you absolutely can say, this is what I expect to earn. That's fine. But don't have it preset because perhaps there's some alternate number that you will do this. Maybe they're paying the marketing stuff and you'll take XYZ less if they're paying all of these fees. So there are ways to structure this that you do have an option. Part of what NAR was trying to get across is realtors did not do a good job making sure the seller understood these fees were negotiable. Now, the listing broker fee is your fee. So you absolutely can say, this is what I work for. If you do not want to pay that, then I'm not your gal. That's okay, right? That's part of being negotiable. You don't have to agree with me and we don't have to work together. No problem, right? But today, this sale line, that is what the listing broker gets. What also is negotiable is that there are two lines underneath that. The unrepresented buyer and the buyer broker, right? Unrepresented buyer, please, if you do not understand this, please come see me, okay? The process to work with an unrepresented buyer is a lot of work. The hardest part is it's keeping your mouth shut because they are unrepresented. For all of you that have spent all this time and years of learning your trade and how to protect your clients, it's really hard to realize that you cannot share with them information that they should have. I mean, I'm not talking about disclosures. You have to disclose stuff, but that they aren't reading the contract and they're not understanding the inspection period is 10 days. There's no, give me an extra day here. I'll just take an extra day there. No. If you miss your deadline, it's done. You're moving forward with the purchase of the home. Well, I didn't understand. Well, hate to tell you, you were told you wanted to be unrepresented. You were told it was your responsibility to read that contract. That's on you, buyer. And you as the listing agent have to represent the seller. I think this is going to be really, really hard on a lot of agents.
You can't count them.
You can.
Have to-
All you can say is go seek legal counsel, go get, go have somebody review this with you. That unrepresented buyer form clearly spells it out, okay? But if you think you're going to do this and your seller says you can represent an unrepresented buyer and you're going to put 0% and $0, you are going to regret it if you get an unrepresented buyer because it is a lot of work. Okay. And I think the biggest misconception for the unrepresented buyer is they're saving money. This is so cool. I'm not, my broker isn't getting paid. Yeah, but somebody has to do all that work. Somebody still, oh, wait, somebody asked me, well, who lets them in for the inspections? Well, you do, because you're representing the seller. You've got to open the door for them. You got to sit there while the, inspector's there because the buyer can't be there by themselves. Home's occupied, buyer can't wander through there. You're representing the seller. How many of you sit through a 4-hour inspection? Guess what? You're gonna be. You can't let them have access. The inspector doesn't know. Somebody shows up, the inspector's like, I'm over here, they're over there. Somebody's got to be watching that home.
Yeah, when I had my listing presentation, I explained unrepresented buyer, and she said, absolutely not. She said, I want to get this right the first time. I do not want any mistakes in having to relist my property.
So for those that online that did not hear that, during the listing presentation, after this was explained to the seller, that seller said absolutely not. So in that scenario, you do put zeros in there because you are not going to take an unrepresented buyer. And basically your comment, if somebody at an open house says, I want you to write the offer, you're going to say, I'm sorry, the seller has prohibited me from doing an unrepresented buyer. Please go find representation and have them submit the offer. We'd be happy to entertain that, right? So they're just not going to be unrepresented. And then, as we talked about earlier, lines 50 and 51, you can fill those in or you can leave them blank. If you leave them blank, you need to put that paragraph at the end if that's your intent. All right, I got a few more minutes. Let's keep going down here. Again, you're not filling in any of this right now. What you're doing is going down to the bottom. There are some other things you can fill in advance. One of those is this section here. Are you being allowed to put a sign or not a sign? Often my template has is. If I know it's in a condo community that won't allow it or something like that, I'll remove it. But I have this preset with is. Whoops. I have it preset with does allow me to take photos. Lockbox and key does allow me. Again, these are preset. That the listing broker is authorized to disclose the existence of offers. Here is where I'm having a conversation with the seller. And then I'm asking them to send me an email. I'm going to read this to you and then we're going to talk about it. It says offers. Listing broker is authorized to disclose the existence of offers, which includes the sales price and terms of sale or rent price in terms of lease on the premises. Now, how many of you would agree that it's important to let other buyers and buyer brokers know if you have an offer on the property? Okay, so most people here are nodding their heads yes. How many of you think it's in the seller's best interest to tell those other parties what the actual offer is that you have in hand?
That could go either way.
Okay, it could go either way, right? So if you're telling everybody I have an offer of $500,000, list price is $540,000, and I'm telling everybody I have an offer of $500,000.
Not do that.
It's not
Oh,
seller's
oh.
best interest.
Oh, well, but you know what? This didn't say in seller's best interest. It said it includes the sales price in terms of sale. Okay, so you need to have written instructions from the seller that grants you the authority to disclose the existence of offers, and then whatever else they're going to grant you the right to do, and nothing more. And you need that in writing from your sellers. Lines 195 to 196. Because if you check the box is not, guess what you cannot disclose? That there are other offers. You have written instructions stating you cannot state there are other offers.
It's all or nothing on
It's
this form.
On this form, it's all or nothing. So to me, you have it with the is, and then you have that conversation. Again, this is an opportunity to talk to your seller and show your value. Explain to them why it is valuable to explain that there are other offers, but not that they may be 30,000 or 40,000 below list price.
So you have to get it in separate writing,
Yes. Just an email is fine.
so it's not all or nothing.
If you check is.
What? But if you check is not, you cannot tell them there's another offer. And how useful is that?
But
You-
can check is and then get something
Mhm.
that's specifying.
Correct. Or you could write down below, I guess, if you
Okay.
wanted to. So I also recommend, I mean, I have mine accept backup offers, but I also have withhold verbal offers, maybe an age thing, folks. And it may be the number of phone calls that I happen to get. But if I get a call and, you know, Sarah says, yeah, hey, I'm so excited about your listing on such and such, we're going to offer you, 452 rubles for that property, and we'd like to close in 15 days, and we want to, the seller can have a lease back, and all of a sudden, blah, 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 blah. And I'm trying to write all this down, right? And then I get 5 more calls, and I don't even know which phone number is Sarah's, right? I've lost her phone number now and I get, 100 phone calls a day, right? So I have no idea where Sarah's phone is now. And I have this offer from some Sarah, don't know, are they an LLC? Wait, Sarah was the agent, who's the buyer? I don't even know who the buyer is, right? So to me, I check the box withhold verbal offers. Very easy. When somebody starts saying that, say, oh, let me just stop you here. Sarah, please do me a favor. This is my email. I am more than willing to present your offer, and I don't say this, but I'd like to. If you're too lazy to write one onto our realty forms, but if that's I'm more than willing to submit your offer. It's fine, but you do need to put it in writing. In an email is fine, but I need the main terms and conditions that you are offering. Why? Because price and date are not all the terms and conditions in there. Are they cash? Are they contingent? I don't know. When somebody throws that out, I literally had one offer once that was verbal. Oh, we're going to do list price, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, well, that sounds great. Get the offer. It's contingent. I'm like, at what point did you think that might be important? Like, really? So put it in writing, even if it's just an email, because then I can forward it. Because what am I obligated to do with that? Present it. Now, do you present it by calling your seller and saying, I have an offer? What does presentation mean? Deliver it. Now, if and when we're back in multiple offer situations, and we still do have some properties that are getting them, if you have 20 offers, are you presenting all offers to your client? Oh, I'm hearing usually not. Are you sending a spreadsheet is what you're doing?
Sure.
Uh-huh. Is that presentation of the offers?
No, I'm not hearing more.
How can you do that so that you are compliant when you know full well your buyer, your seller's not going to read all of them? I understand that, but your job is to present them. You need to do your job. What can you
Sometimes the
do?
seller says, don't take anything under the X amount.
And if you have that in writing, that's fine. You don't have to present those. But if you have 10 offers and you are simply sending a spreadsheet with 10 offers, that's not presenting them. You have something called Google Drive. Create a folder of offers, create subfolders with each buyer and dump all those things in each buyer's folders. Share that drive to them. They have access to everything. Have the email that says, I've sent you the Google Drive. Please, here's the link. Click on this and you can see all these offers, right? You have now presented them. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
You have done your obligation. All right, I know I'm running out of time. Down on the bottom of here, it is very important, folks, when you get down to the very bottom here, yes, you can do additional terms and conditions. You could talk about those, multiple offer situation. Okay, listing broker. Does everybody see this line here? Do you know how many times this line is not filled in? You must fill this in because you must be a member of an association board of realtors here and subscribe to the Realtor Code of Ethics. Where are you a member? Are you a member of the Phoenix Association, Scottsdale Association, or WeServe? That must be listed in here. I happen to be in WeServe, so that goes there. And that's how that is printed, by the way. It is Western Southeastern Realtors of the Valley. That's what that stands for. That's why the little e is there, because it's Western. It's not, the e is not its own word. Okay, so all of this stuff is in here, and you can continue to go down here. You'll see this automatically filled in this information. What boxes are you going to check here if you are representing the seller? You guys not see those? I'm sorry. How about representing the seller as seller's broker? And here's the question. Are they allowing other Realty One Group agents to show this property? If they are not, do not check this box. If they are, you check that box and check this box. Again, this is my template. When I come in here, all these things are already checked. I don't have to redo this. Okay, it's all ready to go. So I can scroll down here, these you can't pre-fill those, but everything else has been pre-filled, right? So Spuds, you're not gonna fill in anything on that one. Sorry, folks online, don't mean to make you sick by flying past all these documents. I apologize. Trying to get to the bottom of those. So the HOA right here, you can't pre-fill any of this because you don't know the HOA. But I was just going to get to page 3, so you could see that page 3, some of those little boxes. So the buyer fills that in. If you represent the buyer, please make sure on page 3 on line 67, you are actually putting the buyer's name. You're going on that page anyway to get the buyer's signature. Just put their name at the top. Okay, here's your lead-based paint, right? These are the option. See, this won't even let me fill these in. So this is the problem with the SkySlope forms. It will not let us do that anymore. If you use Transaction Desk, it still does. So, and I can now, oh, wait. Let me go back up here. Oh, hold on, folks. Let's do it that way. So if you work with a title company and if you work with Rock Title, and I meant to have this preset, it's in my other document. Here, let me just save this for a second. And I'm going to go over to my templates because this one was the one that I already had before. So if you go into your exclusive right and go down to, oh, shoot. You can put this in so that they, oh, where'd it go? There it is. Okay, so some additional terms and conditions. I've had some variation of this that before photographs are taken, it's not uploaded in, and that the owner instructs them to change the date. But you can also put down here, this owner instructs broker to add in the ARMLS listing the following. Again, this is a conversation with the seller that they have an opportunity to save 50% off the escrow fees with Rock Title. I can only put one name in there, so have alternates. You can have one with Art, one with Roberta. You have some other title company, you can have that. Just make sure. Yeah, no other title company, sorry. But you can have the information preset there, so you have that to make sure you're having that conversation with your seller. And they say, what do you mean I can save money? Well, you can save 50% off your escrow. This is not title, escrow fee. And here's the thing, if they are an investor, they're already going to get a discount everywhere. If I remember correctly, that's about 30%. Across the board, most title companies give that 30% off the escrow and title, right? And title for an investor. But let's see, last time I checked, 30%, 50%, that's almost double. They get additional savings if they have the 50% off. So you can also have, if no other, well, you don't need that anymore because that has changed. I need to change this. So, but you can add clauses, etc. So that's just an example there. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. I know I have hit the time limit here. I really appreciate your hanging in there. This is the way to set up a template in SkySlope Forms. Then you go in and you create a new file and you apply the template, and all that stuff drops in there and you've already got it preset. You can probably crank out a listing after you have that preset in about 10 minutes if you know who the seller and the seller's information in there. So it really does speed up your time to put that template in place in advance. Any questions? Yes.
The seller is able to tell you that even an unrepresented buyer is not allowed to use you.
Okay, so an unrepresented buyer is an unrepresented buyer. If they will allow you to have limited or dual representation, you absolutely can. Then they're not an unrepresented buyer. They would fall under that buyer broker fee, and you would get both the top fee and the buyer broker fee added together.
But the seller, are they able to say like, I don't want you?
Correct, absolutely. They can say, I do not want you doing dual agency, but the company, I will do limited representation if somebody else from the company wants to represent them. Okay, yes, so you can do that. For those that are not aware, this is really an important document, and I think it's going to be showing up backwards. It's a Rock Agent, which will give you a net sheet very, very useful on your listing presentations and to meet with people. We do have flyers here. You will have there's a QR code on there. You will have access to that. We will have links to that in our newsletter. Actually, probably tomorrow we'll send that out as well in our midweek. Okay. Any questions online? I know, Jen, you're here. Just so you know, if you ever have a situation where you have a death or some situation where it's probate or estate, we do have someone in the office that can answer some of those questions. They have a separate business that deals with legal issues.
Zoom training for Rock Agent 9/25 at 10:30.
The Zoom training for this new Rock Agent is on September 25th at 10:30 in the morning. That is for this new app. It is really, really awesome. It's going to help you explain to the seller what their nets are, what the net sheet is, closing costs, etc., both for the buyer and for the seller, so you can help both of your clients, no matter who you're representing. Any questions online? Awesome. Awesome. Thank you so much. Have a great Tuesday. Enjoy the day and go get some listings. Bye.
The idea.